In a faraway galaxy, there was once a powerful alien civilization called the Gyrakians. They had lived for thousands of years and built an empire that stretched across hundreds of star systems. Their technology was so advanced that they could travel between stars in the blink of an eye, create energy from nothing, and even manipulate time. For centuries, they thrived, believing themselves to be invincible. But then, something strange began to happen, something they couldn't explain or control. It started with one star. A bright, burning sun at the edge of their territory suddenly went dark. At first, the Gyrakians thought it was a natural event, perhaps a rare cosmic phenomenon. But soon, more stars began to vanish. Entire solar systems disappeared without a trace, leaving behind only empty voids. The Gyrakians called this growing darkness the abyss. It wasn't just swallowing stars. It was consuming everything in its path: planets, moons, asteroids, and even light itself. Nothing could escape its pull. The Gyrakians tried everything to stop it. They sent their best scientists and engineers to study the abyss, but no one could figure out what it was or where it came from. They built massive weapons to fight it, but the abyss absorbed every attack like it was nothing. They even attempted to flee, sending ships to distant corners of the galaxy, but the abyss followed them, spreading faster than they could run. Despair settled over the Gyrakians as they realized they were powerless against this force. Meanwhile, on Earth, humanity remained completely unaware of the danger lurking light years away. People went about their daily lives, working, studying, and dreaming of exploring space someday. Among them was a young astrophysicist named Daniel Carter. He worked at a small observatory in New Mexico, spending most of his nights staring through telescopes at the stars. Daniel loved his job because it allowed him to think about big questions about the universe and humanity's place in it. One night, while analyzing data from deep space observations, Daniel noticed something unusual. Certain stars near the edge of the Milky Way appeared dimmer than they should have been. At first, he thought it might be a mistake in the equipment, so he double-checked everything. When the results came back the same, he showed his findings to his colleague, Lisa Monroe. Lisa was skeptical at first, thinking it was probably just interference or a glitch. But when Daniel gathered more data over the next few weeks, she began to take it seriously. Together, they discovered that the dimming stars weren't isolated incidents. They were part of a larger pattern. Something was causing entire clusters of stars to fade away, and whatever it was moving closer to Earth. Daniel and Lisa knew they had stumbled onto something huge, something that could change everything humanity thought it knew about the universe. They decided to share their findings with NASA and other scientific organizations. At first, many experts dismissed their claims. Some said the data was flawed. Others argued that such a thing was impossible. But as more evidence piled up, people began to listen. Soon, governments around the world took notice, realizing that this mysterious phenomenon posed a potential threat to Earth. Teams of scientists were assembled to investigate further, and Daniel and Lisa found themselves at the center of a global effort to understand what was happening. Little did they know, their discovery would lead to something far greater than anyone could have imagined. While humanity struggled to make sense of the situation, the Gyrakians, desperate and running out of options, reached out across the vastness of space. They sent a message, a cry for help, that would eventually reach Earth, and when it did, it would bring two vastly different species together in a fight for survival. All hope seemed lost, for both the Gyrakians and humanity. But sometimes, even in the darkest moments, unexpected heroes can rise. As the mysterious dimming of stars continued to baffle scientists on Earth, Daniel and Lisa worked tirelessly to decode the strange signals they had detected coming from deep space. The data was unlike anything they had ever seen before, patterns that seemed deliberate, almost like a language. At first, they thought it might be random noise or interference, but the more they analyzed it, the clearer it became. This was a message. The realization sent shockwaves through the scientific community. Humanity had long wondered if intelligent life existed beyond Earth, but now, for the first time, there was proof. Someone, or something, was trying to communicate. With the help of linguists, cryptographers, and computer specialists, Daniel and Lisa managed to piece together fragments of the transmission. What they discovered chilled them to the bone. The message came from an alien species calling themselves the Gyrakians. It described a catastrophic event, a growing void in space that consumed everything in its path. The Gyrakians referred to it as the Abyss, and they warned that it was spreading rapidly. They pleaded for assistance, explaining that their own efforts to stop it had failed. The transmission ended with a haunting phrase: "If you can hear us, please respond. We are running out of time." News of the message spread quickly. World leaders convened emergency meetings to discuss what to do. Some argued that responding could put Earth at risk, while others believed humanity had a moral obligation to help. In the end, a decision was made. Earth would answer the call. A team of experts was assembled to make contact with the Gyrakians and assess the situation firsthand. Daniel and Lisa were chosen to lead the mission due to their role in decoding the message. Joining them were two experienced astronauts, Ryan Keller, a calm and resourceful pilot, and Samantha Brooks, a skilled engineer known for her quick thinking under pressure. Together, they formed a small but capable crew tasked with representing humanity in what could be the most important moment in history. The journey to meet the Gyrakians required advanced technology far beyond what Earth currently possessed. Fortunately, the aliens provided coordinates and guidance to ensure the humans could reach them safely. Using a combination of Earth's existing spacecraft and modifications suggested by the Gyrakians, a vessel was prepared for the voyage. It wasn't luxurious, but it was functional and fast. As the ship launched into the unknown, the crew felt a mix of excitement and fear. None of them had ever traveled so far from home, and the stakes couldn't have been higher. Along the way, they studied every scrap of information the Gyrakians had sent, learning about their culture, technology, and the devastating impact of the Abyss. The more they learned, the more daunting the mission seemed. When they finally arrived at the designated location, the sight before them took their breath away. The Gyrakian flagship, the Ecliptica*, loomed in the darkness of space, a massive, sleek vessel glowing faintly with intricate patterns of light. It was both beautiful and intimidating, a testament to the aliens' incredible technological prowess. As the human ship docked, the crew braced themselves for their first encounter with an alien species. The Gyrakians greeted them warmly, though their appearance was unlike anything the humans had imagined. Their forms were tall and slender, with translucent skin that shimmered with soft, bioluminescent hues. Their eyes glowed faintly, and their voices resonated in a melodic tone when translated into English. Leading the delegation was Kellyan, the Gyrakian commander, who radiated wisdom and authority despite the obvious strain of his people's dire circumstances. Kellyan explained that the Abyss was no natural phenomenon. It was a weapon created eons ago by a long-extinct race. Somehow, it had reactivated, and now it threatened not only the Gyrakians, but all life in the galaxy. Despite their vast knowledge and superior technology, the Gyrakians had been unable to stop it. They hoped that humanity, with its fresh perspective and untapped potential, might offer a solution. Listening to Kellyan's words, the crew felt the weight of responsibility settle heavily on their shoulders. These aliens, so advanced and powerful, had placed their last hope in humanity, a species still struggling to understand its own planet, let alone the mysteries of the universe. But as daunting as the task seemed, the crew knew one thing for certain: failure was not an option. For the sake of both species, they had to find a way to stop the Abyss. The humans were led into the heart of the Ecliptica*, the Gyrakian flagship. The interior was unlike anything they had ever seen. The walls shimmered with soft, pulsating lights that seemed alive, changing colors in response to movement and sound. There were no sharp corners or rigid structures. Everything flowed smoothly, as if the ship itself was a living organism. The air carried a faint hum, almost like a lullaby, which Ryan Keller found strangely calming despite the tension of the moment. Kalian introduced the crew to other members of the Gyrakian team, including scientists, engineers, and strategists who had been working tirelessly to combat the abyss. Though their forms were alien, their expressions, conveyed through subtle shifts in their glowing skin, were unmistakably weary. It was clear that the weight of their failure had taken a toll on them. Despite their exhaustion, they greeted the humans with respect and gratitude, bowing slightly as Kalian explained each person's role. Daniel Carter couldn't help but feel out of place. Here he was, a young astrophysicist from a small observatory in New Mexico, standing among beings who had mastered technologies humanity could barely dream of. Yet, as Kalian began explaining the details of the abyss, Daniel realized something important. Even the most advanced minds could overlook simple solutions when blinded by desperation. His knowledge, though limited compared to the Gyrakians, might hold the key to solving the problem. Kalian showed the humans a holographic projection of the abyss. It was a swirling mass of darkness, constantly expanding and devouring everything it touched. Stars flickered and vanished within its depths, leaving behind only emptiness. The Gyrakians had tried everything to stop it: powerful energy weapons, containment fields, even attempts to redirect its path. But nothing worked. Each effort had been met with failure. And now, time was running out. Lisa Monroe listened intently, her mind racing as she absorbed the information. She noticed patterns in the data that reminded her of theoretical models she had studied back on Earth. These models dealt with quantum singularities, phenomena where the laws of physics broke down. Could the abyss be similar? If so, perhaps the solution lay not in brute force, but in understanding its nature at a fundamental level. As the meeting continued, tensions began to rise. Daniel and one of the Gyrakian engineers clashed over technical details. The engineer insisted that their methods were superior, and that human ideas would only waste valuable time. Daniel, frustrated by the dismissive attitude, argued that fresh perspectives were exactly what they needed. The disagreement grew heated until Samantha Brooks stepped in, her calm voice cutting through the tension. "We're all on the same side here," Samantha said firmly. "Arguing isn't going to save anyone. Let's focus on what we can do together." Her words struck a chord. Slowly, the group calmed down, and the conversation shifted toward collaboration. Lisa suggested combining Gyrakian technology with human theories to create a new approach. Kalian agreed, acknowledging that their survival depended on unity rather than pride. During breaks, Samantha spent time talking with Kalian, learning about the Gyrakians' history and culture. She was fascinated by their stories of exploration and discovery, and she shared tales of humanity's own struggles and achievements. Through these exchanges, a bond formed between them, a mutual respect that transcended their differences. Meanwhile, Ryan focused on practical matters, examining the ship's systems and ensuring the humans understood how to operate the equipment they would need. His experience as a pilot made him invaluable, and the Gyrakians appreciated his straightforward, no-nonsense approach. By the end of the day, the team had laid the groundwork for a plan. It was risky and untested, but it offered a glimmer of hope. As they prepared to begin work, Daniel felt a renewed sense of purpose. They were no longer just representatives of Earth. They were part of something greater. Together, humans and Gyrakians would face the abyss, determined to fight for the future of both their species. The plan to stop the abyss began to take shape, but it was far from easy. The humans and Gyrakians worked around the clock, combining their knowledge and resources to build a device that could neutralize the growing void. Lisa Monroe's idea of using Earth's theoretical models about quantum singularities became the foundation of their strategy. She proposed creating a containment field strong enough to disrupt the abyss's energy and collapse it inward. It was a bold idea, but it was the only one they had. The Gyrakians provided advanced materials and technology, while the humans contributed innovative thinking and fresh approaches. Daniel Carter spent hours poring over calculations, ensuring every detail was precise. Even the smallest mistake could mean failure, and failure wasn't an option. Ryan Keller took charge of gathering rare minerals needed for the device, leading dangerous missions to nearby asteroids. Mining in space was risky, with jagged rocks and unpredictable debris fields threatening the crew at every turn. But Ryan didn't hesitate. He knew how important his role was, and he pushed himself harder than ever before. Samantha Brooks focused on assembling the device itself. Her engineering skills were unmatched, and she quickly earned the respect of the Gyrakian engineers. Together, they worked tirelessly, welding components, testing circuits, and fine-tuning the delicate machinery. Samantha often stayed up late into the night, refusing to rest until everything was perfect. Her determination inspired the others, reminding them of what was at stake. Despite their efforts, challenges arose constantly. The materials needed for the containment field were unstable, requiring careful handling. One wrong move could trigger an explosion, destroying not just the device, but the entire ship. Tensions ran high as deadlines loomed closer. Daniel clashed again with the same Gyrakian engineer who had doubted him earlier. This time, however, their argument was less heated. Both sides recognized the urgency of the situation and resolved to set aside their differences. Kalian played a crucial role in keeping the team united. He reminded everyone that their shared goal outweighed personal disagreements. His leadership brought a sense of calm to the chaos, helping the humans and Gyrakians work together more effectively. Samantha noticed how much Kalian cared for his people, even as he carried the weight of their survival on his shoulders. She admired his strength and resilience, qualities she hoped to emulate. As the days passed, progress became visible. The prototype of the containment device slowly came together, piece by painstaking piece. Each success, no matter how small, gave the team hope. They celebrated milestones quietly, knowing there was still so much to do. Lissa often found herself smiling despite the pressure, amazed by what they were accomplishing together. Humanity and the Gyrakians, two vastly different species, were proving that cooperation could overcome even the greatest obstacles. But the abyss wasn't waiting patiently. Its relentless expansion continued, consuming more stars and casting longer shadows across the galaxy. The crew could feel the clock ticking down, the weight of time pressing heavily on them. Sleep became a luxury few could afford, and meals were often skipped in favor of working just a little bit longer. Exhaustion was written on their faces, yet none of them complained. They understood the stakes. If they failed, nothing would be left. Not the Gyrakians, not Earth, not any form of life. One evening, as the team gathered to review their progress, Kalian addressed them. His glowing skin dimmed slightly, a sign of his weariness, but his voice remained steady. "You have given us hope," he said, looking at each member of the crew. "Hope is a fragile thing, but it is also powerful. Let us hold on to it, no matter how dark things may seem." His words resonated deeply with everyone. For the first time in weeks, the crew allowed themselves a moment of quiet reflection. They thought about their families back home, their friends, and the countless lives depending on them. Then, without saying a word, they'd returned to their tasks, fueled by renewed determination. Finally, after countless sleepless nights and endless trials, the device was ready. It was a marvel of ingenuity, a fusion of human creativity and Gyrakian precision. As the team stood around it, staring at the culmination of their hard work, a sense of pride washed over them. They had done everything they could. Now, it was time to face the abyss. The moment had arrived. The Ecliptica asterisk approached the edge of the abyss, its massive form dwarfed by the swirling void before them. From a distance, the abyss looked like a living thing, a hungry beast with no end, consuming everything in its path. Stars flickered and vanished as it expanded, leaving behind only emptiness. The crew stood in silence, staring at the terrifying sight through the ship's observation windows. Even Kalian, who had seen it many times before, seemed shaken. Daniel Carter felt his heart pounding in his chest. He had spent weeks preparing for this moment, but now that it was here, doubt crept into his mind. What if the device didn't work? What if all their efforts were for nothing? He glanced at Lisa Monroe, who stood beside him, her face pale but determined. She gave him a small nod, as if to say, "We've done everything we can." That tiny gesture gave Daniel the strength to push forward. Kalian stepped forward, his glowing form steady despite the gravity of the situation. "This is our best chance," he said, addressing the crew. "The device must be activated at the core of the abyss. If we succeed, we may stop it. If we fail—" He paused, letting the unspoken words hang in the air. No one needed to hear them. They all knew what failure meant. The plan was risky. Someone would have to pilot a smaller vessel into the heart of the abyss to deploy the containment device. The journey would be perilous, and there was no guarantee of survival. Kalian volunteered immediately, insisting that it was his duty as the leader of his people, but Daniel refused to let him go alone. "I helped design the device," Daniel argued. "If something goes wrong, I'm the best person to fix it." After much debate, Kalian reluctantly agreed. Together, they boarded a sleek Gyrakian shuttlecraft, leaving the safety of the Eclipta behind. Ryan Keller and Samantha Brooks stayed on the flagship, monitoring their progress and ready to assist in any way they could. As the shuttle detached and moved toward the abyss, the rest of the crew watched anxiously from the control room. Entering the abyss was unlike anything Daniel or Kalian had ever experienced. Space itself seemed to warp and twist around them, bending light and distorting time. The shuttle shook violently, its systems straining under the chaotic forces. Alarms blared, and warning lights flashed across the control panel. Daniel gripped his seat tightly, trying to steady himself as the sensation of falling overwhelmed him. Beside him, Kalian remained calm, his bioluminescent skin glowing brighter in response to the stress. "Stay focused," Kalian said, his voice steady. "We're almost there." As they neared the core of the abyss, the darkness grew thicker, swallowing even the faintest traces of light. It felt suffocating, like being buried alive. Daniel fought back panic, reminding himself why they were doing this. For Earth, for the Gyrakians, for every star and planet the abyss threatened to destroy. Finally, they reached the center. The containment device was deployed, its intricate mechanisms unfolding like petals on a flower. Daniel worked quickly, inputting commands and activating the system while Kalian kept the shuttle stable. Every second felt like an eternity. Then, just as the device began to hum with energy, something went wrong. A surge of power destabilized the shuttle, throwing both of them off balance. "We need to stabilize the field," Daniel shouted over the noise. "It's collapsing." Kalian sprang into action, using his advanced knowledge of Gyrakian technology to counteract the instability. His hands moved swiftly over the controls, his glowing skin flickering with effort. "Keep going," he urged Daniel. "You're almost there." With trembling fingers, Daniel completed the activation sequence. The containment field expanded outward, pushing against the abyss's dark energy. For a moment, it seemed like it might work, but then the shuttle lurched violently, caught in the backlash of the abyss's resistance. "I'll hold it steady," Kalian said firmly. "Finish the process." Daniel hesitated, realizing what Kalian intended to do. "No, we can both." "There's no time," Kalian interrupted. His voice softened. "You must survive. Your species has given us hope when we had none. Carry that hope forward." Before Daniel could protest, Kalian triggered an emergency protocol, ejecting Daniel into an escape pod. The last thing Daniel saw before the pod sealed shut was Kalian's glowing form, standing tall as the shuttle was consumed by the abyss. Daniel Carter floated in the escape pod, his mind racing as he watched the shuttle vanish into the abyss. Kalian's sacrifice weighed heavily on him, but there was no time to grieve. The containment field had been activated, and now it was up to Daniel to ensure it held. He checked the pod systems, confirming that it was still within range of the Ecliptica*. The small craft trembled slightly as the forces of the abyss continued to churn around him, but it remained intact. For now. Back on the flagship, Ryan Keller and Samantha Brooks stared at their screens, holding their breath. They had tracked the shuttle's descent into the abyss and witnessed the activation of the containment device. But when the shuttle disappeared, they feared the worst. Then, a faint signal appeared on their monitors, the escape pod carrying Daniel. Relief washed over them, though it was short-lived. The real test was just beginning. The containment field expanded outward, pushing against the abyss with incredible force. On the Ecliptica*, Lisa Monroe monitored the readings, her hands trembling as she analyzed the data. The energy levels were rising rapidly, and the field was starting to destabilize. "It's not enough," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "We need more power." Samantha sprang into action, rerouting every available resource on the ship to support the containment field. She worked alongside the Gyrakian engineers, her movements quick and precise. Together, they boosted the energy output, stabilizing the field just as it began to falter. For a moment, hope flickered like a candle in the wind, but it was enough. Inside the abyss, the reaction was violent. The void fought back, its dark energy swirling chaotically as it resisted the containment field. The escape pod shook violently, threatening to tear apart. Daniel gripped the edges of his seat, bracing himself as alarms blared around him. He knew the odds were slim, but he refused to give up, not after everything they had sacrificed. On the Ecliptica*, the crew watched anxiously as the readings fluctuated. The abyss began to shrink, its massive form collapsing inward under the pressure of the containment field. Stars that had been consumed reappeared one by one, their light piercing through the darkness. It was working, but the cost was immense. The strain on the containment device pushed it to its limits, and everyone knew it might not hold for long. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the abyss collapsed completely. The swirling void disappeared, leaving behind an empty expanse of space. Silence fell over the crew as they processed what had happened. Against all odds, they had succeeded. The threat was gone. Daniel's escape pod emerged from the remnants of the abyss, battered but intact. Ryan maneuvered the Ecliptica* to retrieve him, his hand steady despite the exhaustion etched on his face. When the pod docked, Samantha rushed to meet Daniel, pulling him into a tight embrace. He looked pale and shaken, but alive. "You did it," she said, her voice choked with emotion. "You saved us all." As the crew reunited, the weight of Kalian's sacrifice hung over them. His bravery and selflessness had made their victory possible. Samantha shared a quiet moment with the Gyrakians who remained on the ship, expressing her gratitude for their leader and vowing to honor his memory. The aliens nodded solemnly, their glowing forms dimmed in mourning. Later, as the Ecliptica* turned toward Earth, the crew reflected on what they had accomplished. They had faced the impossible and triumphed, not through superior strength or technology, but through unity, determination, and sacrifice. Humanity had stepped up when all hope seemed lost, proving that even the smallest among the stars could make a difference. For Daniel, Lisa, Ryan, and Samantha, the journey was far from over. They had returned as heroes, but they also carried the responsibility of ensuring humanity never forgot the lessons they had learned. The universe was vast and full of dangers, but it was also filled with possibilities. And thanks to their courage, there was still a future worth fighting for. The return journey to Earth was quiet but heavy with emotion. The crew of the Ecliptica* sat together in the ship's main chamber, their faces reflecting a mix of relief and grief. They had saved the galaxy from the abyss, But the cost of that victory lingered in their minds. Kalian's sacrifice weighed on them all, especially Daniel Carter, who couldn't shake the image of the Gyrakian leader staying behind to ensure the containment field held. It was a moment of profound bravery, one that Daniel knew he would never forget. As they approached Earth, the crew prepared to share their story with the world. News of their mission had spread during their time in space, thanks to messages sent back to NASA and global leaders. Humanity had watched and waited anxiously, unsure if the small team would succeed. Now, as the Ecliptica entered Earth's atmosphere, millions gathered to welcome them home. Cities lit up with celebrations, and people around the globe tuned in to witness the historic event. When the ship landed, the crew stepped out onto a platform set up at a secure military base. Cameras flashed, and cheers erupted as Daniel, Lisa Monroe, Ryan Keller, and Samantha Brooks emerged, wearing simple flight suits that now seemed like symbols of heroism. Beside them stood representatives of the Gyrakians who had accompanied them, their glowing forms drawing gasps of wonder from the crowd. For many, it was the first time they had seen an alien species, and the sight filled them with awe. World leaders greeted the crew warmly, praising their courage and ingenuity. Speeches were made, medals were awarded, and the four humans found themselves hailed as saviors not just of Earth, but of countless lives across the galaxy. Yet, despite the accolades, the crew remained humble. They spoke often of Kalian and the Gyrakians, emphasizing that the victory belonged to both species. "We couldn't have done it without them," Daniel said during one press conference. "They taught us what true sacrifice looks like." In the weeks that followed, life began to change for the crew. Daniel and Lisa returned to their work in astrophysics, inspired by the knowledge they had gained from the Gyrakians. Their research took on new urgency as they studied the data collected during the mission, hoping to uncover more about the origins of the abyss and how to prevent such threats in the future. Together, they published papers and gave lectures, sharing their experiences with scientists and students alike. Ryan and Samantha, meanwhile, became ambassadors for interstellar cooperation. They traveled the world, speaking about the importance of unity and collaboration, not just among humans, but between species. Their message resonated deeply, sparking conversations about humanity's role in the universe. Governments and organizations began investing in space exploration and diplomacy, recognizing that Earth's survival depended on working together with others in the cosmos. The Gyrakians, too, played a vital role in shaping this new era. Though their empire had been devastated by the abyss, they vowed to rebuild, using the lessons learned from their alliance with humanity. They shared their technology and knowledge freely, helping Earth advance in ways previously unimaginable. In return, humanity offered its creativity and resilience, forging a partnership built on mutual respect and trust. But even as the world celebrated, the crew carried scars from their ordeal. Daniel often found himself staring at the stars, wondering if Kalian's sacrifice had truly been worth it. He struggled with survivor's guilt, questioning why he had lived while others had perished. Lisa noticed his pain and encouraged him to talk about it, reminding him that Kalian had chosen to save him for a reason. "He believed in you," she said gently. "Don't let his faith go to waste." Samantha also wrestled with her emotions, missing the bond she had formed with Kalian. She kept a small holographic image of him in her quarters, a reminder of his wisdom and kindness. Ryan, ever practical, threw himself into his work, channeling his grief into action. Together, the crew supported each other, knowing they had shared something no one else could understand. Though the abyss was gone, its memory served as a powerful lesson. Humanity had faced the unknown and risen to the challenge, proving that hope could shine even in the darkest moments. All hope had been lost until humans stepped in. And because of their actions, the future looked brighter than ever before. Months passed since the crew returned from their mission, and life on Earth began to change in ways no one could have predicted. The successful alliance with the Gyrakians marked a turning point for humanity. For the first time, People looked to the stars not with fear or curiosity, but with a sense of purpose, the knowledge that Earth was part of something much larger, a vast universe filled with wonders and challenges, inspired nations to work together like never before. Daniel Carter and Lisa Monroe became household names, their faces appearing in newspapers, magazines, and documentaries around the world. They continued their research at an expanded observatory, now equipped with advanced technology provided by the Gyrakians. Their studies focused on understanding cosmic phenomena, similar to the abyss, ensuring humanity would be better prepared if such a threat ever arose again. Despite their fame, Daniel and Lisa remained grounded, driven by a shared passion for discovery rather than recognition. Ryan Keller and Samantha Brooks took on new roles as leaders in space exploration. Ryan trained astronauts for future missions, emphasizing teamwork and adaptability, qualities he had learned during his time aboard the Ecliptica. Samantha worked closely with engineers and scientists to develop spacecraft capable of traveling farther and faster than ever before. Together, they helped establish Earth's first interstellar fleet, designed not just for defense, but also for peaceful exploration. The partnership between humans and Gyrakians grew stronger with each passing day. Teams of scientists from both species collaborated on projects ranging from energy production to medical advancements. Schools introduced lessons about the Gyrakians, teaching children about their culture, history, and the importance of cooperation. Slowly but surely, humanity began to see itself not as separate from the cosmos, but as an integral part of it. For Daniel, the memory of Kalian stayed with him every day. He often thought about the Gyrakian leader's final words, "Hope lives eternal." Those words became a mantra for him, a reminder of why they had fought so hard and sacrificed so much. Whenever doubts crept into his mind, he remembered Kalian's bravery and the trust he had placed in humanity. It gave him strength to keep moving forward. Samantha found solace in her role as an ambassador. She traveled frequently, speaking to crowds large and small about the lessons learned from the mission. Her speeches always ended with a call to action. "We are stronger when we stand together," she would say. "Let us honor those who gave everything by building a future where no one has to face the darkness alone." As years went by, the scars of the abyss began to heal, not just for the Gyrakians, but for humanity as well. New generations grew up hearing stories of how two vastly different species had come together to save the galaxy. These stories sparked dreams of adventure, innovation, and unity. Young people dreamed of becoming explorers, scientists, and diplomats, eager to follow in the footsteps of those who had dared to step into the unknown. One evening, Daniel stood outside his home, gazing at the night sky. The stars twinkled brightly, untouched by any looming threat. Beside him, Lisa joined silently, her presence comforting. "Do you think we'll ever see them again?" she asked softly, referring to the Gyrakians. "I don't know," Daniel replied after a moment. "But I do know this. They'll always be with us. In what we've learned, in how we live, in the hope we carry forward." Lisa smiled faintly, nodding in agreement. Though the road ahead was uncertain, they both knew one thing for sure. Humanity had proven itself capable of greatness. When all hope had been lost, humans had stepped in, not out of arrogance, but out of compassion and courage. And because of that, the stars still shone brightly, lighting the way for whatever came next.